The AI DEPIN narrative is absolutely booming. We're flying off the back of Nvidia shares growing, and it just looks unstoppable, right? Like, we're still constantly growing, and crypto AI coins / DEPIN are absolutely seeing the benefits of that. We're seeing Render up 136%. We're seeing the likes of Singularity Net up 300% in the last month. We're seeing Fetch AI up 385%, and we're also seeing the likes of Golem up 200%. And this is not all the AI DEPIN coins. There's plenty more, and they're all pretty much showing the same thing. So that just kind of shows, as long as you're in one of these, you're going to be doing well. So that's potentially a good reason to just diversify for starters. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the projects themselves, where I think these are going to end up, how much more they have to grow. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you what I think you should be doing if you want to maximize your profits in this bull run, because this narrative isn't exclusive to Render. While Render is leading the charge, there's plenty to be made in these other coins, and I'll explain a bit more about that later. But anyway, guys, if you like the information that I give, I try and do something a little bit different to what others are doing. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of an ego check if you're looking to FOMO into stuff. Anyway, so like and subscribe if you do like it, but let's get into it. And the AI is a weird thing. Render is looking to basically help people render on cloud compute, render images, etc. And that's also been tied into the AI narrative, because AI is now starting to render videos, etc. But there's the other side of AI, right? There's obviously just the applications that maybe aren't rendering images, etc. They're just processing applications, but all of these require GPUs. These applications are very complex. They require a lot of processing power, and GPUs are much more suited to it because CPUs can't actually handle it. So whilst Render is actually positioned for the rendering market, I saw this article here that the actual 3D rendering market report, the revenue is expected to jump to 35 billion from the current 3 billion, which is absolutely insane. And if there's any piece of advice for business, etc., always invest into a growing market. You wouldn't want to invest in the paper market when people are moving online, because those companies can't grow, right? Render still has a massive market that you can take hold of, as well as all of these other coins. But why does Render have the biggest hype around it? And that's something I still really don't get entirely. And these revenue numbers might not be exact, but if we take a look at this, we can see Render's revenue in 2018 was 180k. And it grew to 742k by 2023. And that's pretty awesome, right? Like, it's grown 4x, which is crazy, but still kind of small relative. I mean, if a company's growing 400% in 5 years, pretty nice. 62% growth year on year, which is actually a high growth company. So it's not bad, it's good. But a lot of this is actually off just the hype of Nvidia, right? So we're seeing Nvidia absolutely skyrocket, and everything is just going along with that. And where do we go in terms of Nvidia? Because if Nvidia crashes, all of these cryptos will crash as well. But there's also another thing propping it up. We've got the crypto boom. Crypto is just absolutely skyrocketing. These two things together are just seeing this AI DEPIN narrative just explode. And if you compare Nvidia to Apple, for example, Apple has a market cap of 2.6 trillion. It's actually come down recently due to the sales in China declining. But like, how much higher can that go? I mean, it's soon going to be bigger than Apple, and it's going to be one of the biggest American companies, other than sort of like the Aramco, which is the oil giant in Saudi Arabia. But we do expect Nvidia to still post record profits. Q2 is going to be absolutely huge, and Q3 expected as well. They're going to almost double their profits this year. So we can only expect Nvidia to keep going up, and that's good for AI crypto. If you are holding these cryptos, you're pretty much guaranteed to still see a good return. I couldn't say that as much about a lot of projects, but these ones you're pretty much guaranteed to do well. But I just want to break down sort of the rest of the revenues around these companies and what I still think you should do. Actually, if we take a look at some of these other ones, so I took a look at Golem. Golem is actually a competitor. Basically, it's just cloud compute. Their revenue supposedly, now I don't know if this data is correct, but their revenue is apparently 2.4 million, which would actually put it higher than Render, which seems strange to me. So if you guys have any extra numbers on this, I'd be interested to know. But just for the sake of this, I just wanted to compare it to other projects to give you an idea kind of what I think is a buy. And if we take a look at Singularity Net, they basically are more focused on AI as opposed to just rendering in general. And it's basically just a decentralized AI marketplace. You would have heard of it. And obviously Fetch as well, which is also a sort of AI marketplace. Essentially, they're just like hosting platforms who are AI apps, etc. And if we take a look at Singularity AI's revenue, they have been growing very, very nicely, 4.9 million to 12.4 million in 2023. And I just took a look at this roughly as a sort of PE ratio. Singularity net is at 1.5 billion. So if we do 1.5 billion divided by 13 million, we get 115. That is its price to earnings ratio, which is actually very good for a crypto. I would say this, in a sense, is still pretty undervalued, even though it's obviously skyrocketed. I would expect to see a pullback, but it's still pretty good. There is a lot more opportunity outside of render. Now, I just want to liken this to an experience that I went through during the stock market, and I just want to liken this to an experience that I went through in the stock market bubble in 2020. So just take Tesla for example, right? So we see Tesla absolutely skyrocket up to November, sort of January time 2021, and then this is NIO. So we can also see this one skyrocketed, and basically people were buying Tesla because Tesla was driving the AI revolution, and that's kind of, render is a leading narrative in this, but people were looking to make money. People were just getting kind of bored. Perhaps maybe they bought in here and a growth to here is only going to give them a 2x. So they're looking at something else. If we see this growth sort of started around April, but NIO started around sort of May, so it was slightly delayed in its growth. And essentially, if you had bought into this, you would have seen from $3 to a peak of around 60. Obviously, there's no telling that you would have sold. You would have got a 20x. And if you were buying in here, this was at 284, you would have got maybe 8x. So, but you're like, why do I care about Tesla and NIO? Well, my point is render is looking pretty frothy right now. It's at $10. If you were watching my previous videos, I told you that my price prediction for render is around $25. So if you are holding from, say, somewhere down here, not bad to still be holding, because obviously as that market cap goes up, your earnings are multiplied by multiple more than it currently is. But if you buy in at $10 now, you're only going to see a 2.5x from here. Now, if you're happy with a 2.5x, then that's fine. But I really think that it's a very similar to the Tesla NIO story, where if you are buying into these smaller cap AI coins, you're going to see a much bigger return than if you are buying into render. Now, this is not financial advice, but this is just my opinion on what I have seen happen time and time again. I'm not saying just FOMO into any of these projects or just go all in on these other projects, but just having some diversification is absolutely key. There's no telling that a lot of people have bought in down here and they might start taking their profit, and also people will be less inclined to invest as heavily because if they get in and they only can see a 2.5x, they're going to take that money elsewhere. They're going to look to these smaller cap coins where they can generate a lot more money. I still think this one is pretty undervalued, even though it's gone up a lot, but just in terms of its revenue numbers, it's pretty impressive. Fetch AI is actually more overvalued than Singularity Net. It might just be because it has a better name. It's a bit more catchy. And like Gollum's kind of like an ugly name with thinking Lord of the Rings. But in general, if you do want to maximize your returns on this, it is much better to be getting in these smaller cap ones, because I just personally think that this whole AI DEPIN narrative has a lot to run. You're not bad holding render, but if you want to maximize your gains, you'd be much better off in these other coins. But obviously there is somewhat more risk, I would say. I think there's much less risk in Singularity Net. Fetch AI, more overvalued. But the likes of Gollum, if that revenue number is true, obviously do your own research, then it's looking pretty damn good in my opinion. Still slightly more overvalued than Singularity Net, but it's smaller, and if you buy into smaller market cap, you generally have a much higher upside, so there is potential there. It's worth just researching. So these are just some examples of alternative coins that are competitors to render. But yeah, I just generally think we've still got a run to go on render. Perhaps there's going to be a pullback in these, but they kind of look unstoppable. As long as Nvidia keeps doing what it does, then you're going to keep seeing gains in these, but it's likely we will have some level of a pullback. I don't think it will be huge. A lot of these are quite shallow just because everyone kind of wants to buy, and it is generally the strongest narrative in crypto right now. So if you are looking to buy any narrative, it's got to be this one. But my biggest recommendation is that you just diversify between narratives. I think this one's the best, but there are other narratives. I'm doing very well on AI privacy narratives at the moment. They're doing really well for me, so even like DEPIN, etc., but that's for another video. If you watch my previous video, you'll see when I think render is going to come down, because it is that old adage, the higher they go, the harder they fall, and AI is looking pretty frothy. We still got a long way to go, but if you watch that video, I basically talk about when I think these are going to kind of drop, because Nvidia has come down. I mean, we saw the same with Tesla. We've seen this a million times before. If you had bought up here, you're kind of screwed. So yeah, anyway, guys, stay safe out there. It's a great market, but just be smart about it, and I hope this information helps. Please like and subscribe if you like the video.